Well, welcome everyone. I hope everyone's doing well and is safe and healthy. Today's topic is the future of cybersecurity and threats post-pandemic, and we're going to dive right in the 10 minutes we have. So first of all, if you look at the world we live in today, it is full of people attempting to attack people, to take their data, and these folks don't stop. In a time of a pandemic, they accelerate. Cyber attacks on healthcare spiking 45% since November of last year. People trying to get data on the vaccine and personal information. People preying on uncertainty in the world. That's what attackers and that's what criminals do, right? A time of uncertainty is the time for them to attack. The worst of the worst people is what we often say. And so when you look at the threat environment, what are these people after? Ultimately, they're after one thing, your data. Data is what matters in the world. Whether you're a financial, a healthcare, a manufacturing, or retail, data is the goods that they want. And it is what holds many companies in the end to get to where they want to go. Look at this chart, 2010, 7 zettabytes of data going to now 2025 in the future, 175. It's a data explosion. And when you think about that data, that is the new attack surface. And the one thing post-pandemic that has been clear, if it wasn't before, is that data is the gold. It is the oil. It is the water. It's what people are after. And no doubt, the world we live in and what has happened and is happening has only accentuated that. And so you look at that attack surface. Data runs company. It's what gives the market cap of companies. And that's what attackers are after. That's one side of the spectrum. On the other side, the pandemic has actually increased digital transformation. It has accelerated it. See the stats here, the average cloud apps per enterprise. These are software as a service applications. 2020, over 2,000 SaaS apps per enterprise. 95% of those, of course, are not owned by IT. They're brought in by business units, marketing, sales, so on. You look at the traffic growth. 2021 today, wow, look at that, 20 zettabytes per year. It's just the growth and the use of cloud is here and it's here to stay. And you marry that with the explosion of data, and it's definitely a security problem for many. The second big trend is obviously not just the explosion of where your data is living in the internet, but work remote. In our network, we process tens of billions of transactions a day. And it used to be that 27% originated remote. Now, 67%. We don't ever foresee that going back to 27%. People working remote, that's here to stay. You pair that with what are they accessing when they're remote? More and more applications that a company doesn't own, right? Cloud, SaaS, public cloud, and so on. And you can see the stat about people continuing to allow that. So this new attack surface, I wanted to give you the stats because one, what is the attack surface? What are they after? It's your data. 175 zettabytes by 2025. Business critical data. Where is it living? More and more, it is living not in your infrastructure. It is living in SaaS apps, a large majority of which IT doesn't always control, right? Could be business units, partners, and beyond. Your data is everywhere. And then the other big trend, which is alluded to by remote work as well, is the notion of mobile device usage. 17.72 billion mobile devices by 2024 being used to access that data that doesn't live in your infrastructure. That's the environment we live in. And to capstone this, before I talk about, well, what are people doing about it? This is a simple line that you should remember. Data is the new oil, right? It is what drives our economy, drives our companies. It's also what drives the threat landscape. So I was sitting with a CISO, and the CISO said to me, the chief security officer said to me something that was very poignant. And they said, Sanjay, you know the problem? And I said, the problem? What's the problem? He goes, well, the problem is that the attackers know where my data is better than I do. And you just think about that. The attackers know where a company's sensitive data is better than the company does. That's not an exaggeration. When you actually think about it, for many enterprises, that is the case. And why? It's because they don't understand where their data is, who's using it, what is sensitive, and where's it going. And that's the reality we live in today. And when you think about the threats post-pandemic and even pre, what is being accelerated is a realization that people need to know where is their data. Only then do they have any hope of stopping attackers from being successful. So one of the core things to understanding where your data is and fighting the threats in the world is you have to understand there have been some massive changes in the world going on. And one of those massive changes is that the language of the internet is not the same. The language of the internet is now APIs and JSON. The economy, the digital economy, is APIs and JSON. I call it layer 8. Well, why is it layer 8? Why is this important? Well, if you want to enable your company to transform digitally, if you want to let them use these great SaaS apps, use Slack, use Teams, you want to let them go to the web, use social media for LinkedIn, looking up people before you meet them. You need to understand what people are doing, right? You need to know, hey, that gentleman is on a public channel of a SaaS app about to send a credit card. That's very different than someone sending a message, right, on Slack, and there's no confidential data. This understanding of the language of the internet is important. And previously, the answer you would have get from most systems is, hey, there's 500K of data going somewhere to Amazon. But that doesn't tell you anything anymore. That's the old way, interpreting it at layer 7. Here's a sum of data going to a URL. That's not how you need to understand it anymore. You need the next level of detail. Yeah, that's 500K of data going to Amazon, but actually it's a guy on Slack on a non-corporate instance on a public channel saying a credit card. If you had that second piece, you would know what to do. You would say, I don't want my data going there, and you would stop it. Whereas if you had the first and you just blocked 500K to go on Amazon, you could be blocking anything and breaking your business. So understanding the language of the internet and the context of the internet is very important so that you can then set policies and governance that enables your company to move forward, but stop the bad activities in data. So this is the architecture really to enable this digital transformation and stop the threats. It is remote work is here to stay. So I don't want to hairpin VPN back things. I want things to go over time, direct internet for the best user experience. I don't want to be limited by a rack of appliances, which can't operate at layer 8, decrypt SSL at scale, and enforce DLP in real time. I want something that takes advantage of the power of the cloud, is close to the end user so it's performant, and no matter where my users work around the world, they have this virtual security edge. That's the future, really, of combating these threats. And it doesn't matter what you access, SaaS, public cloud, web. I want this consistent security control and this consistent edge. So one of the key things that I talk about too is data protection. And when you look at data protection, people are trying to exfiltrate your data every way they can, right? And I'm giving you this simple example because when you think about combating the exfiltration and the attackers, you need to know and identify your sensitive data. And part of that is understanding some of the new techniques to do that, using machine learning, using AI, using some of these methods to truly gather and understand, wait, is someone trying to steal my data because I was drawing virtually on a whiteboard and they're exfiltrating that whiteboard? It's a very common vector right now of stealing data. You would not think so, right? But it is. Screenshots, same thing. How do you detect that? Using machine learning and AI and developing and algorithms to detect these things is very important. Doing it in real time across all apps, all of the internet, no matter where people work. And I give you this example because to combat the threats in today's landscape requires a whole set of new tools, right? In the cloud, close to the end user, having this virtual edge that can do real-time data protection at scale. That's critical. This is the architecture of the future. Really, when you think about combating these threats, you want a SASE, right? Secure Access Services Edge, that secure cloud, data protection at its core, enabling you, and you want it to integrate with your ecosystem. Combating threats in a post-pandemic landscape, you can't have a closed ecosystem. Your identity vendor needs to integrate with your SASE, needs to integrate with your endpoint and EDR, needs to integrate with your SIM. Only with these 4 systems integrated, I don't mean from the same solution, I mean actually, sharing in open standards data, can you hope to fight and protect the most valuable asset in the post-pandemic world, your data. Thanks very much for listening about some of the threats and what they're after, your data, and how to solve them.